Hi, everyone. This is Debbie, your host, and welcome to the Transition Bridge podcast. This is the podcast where we come in each and every week to discover more about the purpose and the power of the transitions that we experience in life. And when we are in this season of change, and that's what transitions are all about, we get challenged sometimes to look within so that we can discover more about ourselves. Maybe there's things that we need to let go of. Maybe there's an area we need to become more resilient in. And ultimately, we should all be experiencing growth because that's what transitions do. They call you higher. But there are other types of transitions that have a downward movement. And these are the type of transitions that are not healthy. A specific one would be someone that you know, a loved one who has made a choice and has now become addicted. They're struggling with addictions, and now that has become their norm. And so that's a downward type of transition that's not healthy for you or for them. And so, to give us a deeper understanding today on addiction and recovery, I have invited Amber Hollingsworth. She is a master addiction counselor, and she's the founder of Hope for Families Recovery Center. She's the creator of the YouTube channel Put Your Shovel Down. And with over 2 decades of experience, she's helped thousands of families navigate addiction recovery using innovative relationship focused strategies, one that's called invisible intervention. And known for her relatable, no nonsense approach, Amber empowers families to outsmart addiction, set boundaries, and rebuild trust. Well, Amber, it's exciting to have you here with us today on the Transition Bridge podcast. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, when I heard about what you do, I thought this is a great conversation for us to have because families that are struggling with loved ones who are stuck in addiction sometimes don't know what to do, how to handle this. And I find what you're doing is very powerful. So let me ask you, so what first drew you into the world of of addiction recovery and what keeps you so passionate about helping families today?
Well, I get asked that question a lot, Debbie, and normally my answer to that is I accidentally got here. But I was on a podcast a couple of days ago with another therapist, and during the podcast, he said, "Can I therapist you for a minute?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Don't you think maybe you subconsciously got yourself here?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe so," because
So you said this was accidentally that you got into
well, that's
this.
the way it felt to me. Like
Yeah,
it wasn't a
sure.
purposeful decision. I I got here because I initially went to school to be a school teacher. That was really hard. I taught high school for a few years. That was the worst. And then I decided I'd go back and get my master's degree. So naturally, I thought I'll be a school counselor because I mean I was in the school system, so it's natural. But I couldn't really afford to like take a whole year off just to be an intern and not get paid for a whole year to be a school counselor. So I changed my major at the last minute to community counseling, and they threw me an addiction um, internship. So that's how I got here. But there is a little backstory. I'm not in recovery myself, or at least not in the traditional substance abuse kind. Um, and that's usually the first thing people want to know. But I do come from an addicted family, like grandparents, sibling, parents, I mean, everywhere. And I always wish I could say I was just so inspired and that's why I got here. But the truth is, Debbie, that I didn't even realize I came from an addicted family until I was already in the field. And it was looking backwards. It's not like I didn't know the substances were being used. It was just more, it just seemed like my regular life. And I
Mhm.
didn't really, I wouldn't have put that label on it. I wouldn't have really even thought that about it until I was already here. So I think that's why that other guy said, maybe you're subconsciously drawn. Like sometimes people say you attract certain people or you're attracted to certain people.
Mhm.
You might be
Mhm.
right. I don't know.
Well, I just find it really interesting. Here you wind up in a place, and then as you're studying, and then as you're learning, you're thinking, wait, this is opposite of my family. And you really have a generational
Mhm.
thing of addiction there. Grandparents, parents, siblings. It seems like it stopped with you.
It stopped with me. I like to say when you grow up in it, it doesn't seem that glamorous, to be honest. So it
Mm-hmm.
never was very tempting to me, like even high school and college where people are experimenting with all that. Like it was always around. Like I could have done it whenever. But
Yeah.
it it was the opposite of glamorous, if you ask me. So it just never did feel tempting. That, and I think um I was probably what you would call like the hero child of addicted family system, which is sort of the one that kind of gets these like really goal focused like blinders on and just is like, making all the right decisions and being responsible. And it really serves a role in a dysfunctional family. And it looks really functional, but it's really not. Yeah.
No, well, that's great. That's amazing to know that you were in the midst of it and you stayed steady. So now here you are, you've studied and you've created tools to help families now because I guess as you were studying, you discovered, maybe there's a better way to do this or a different way. So, what is this invisible intervention?
Well, when I when I first got hired out of graduate school. I say when I was a baby counselor is the way I like to say. When I was a baby counselor. I mean, I really was a baby counselor. I was like 24 or something. And I had taught high school for a couple of years and I had had, 3 months of internship in an addiction program. So this place that hired me, which was this inpatient facility with all kinds of units, addiction, mental health, everything, adolescents, adults, geriatrics, everything.
Mhm.
They thought they wanted to start an addiction program for teenagers. They had inpatient program, but for like acute care, crisis mental health, but they didn't have any addiction program. And because I had taught high school, and because, like I said, I had those 3 months of internship in an addiction adult program, they were like, Amber can do it. I don't know what they were thinking. And so they let me develop this program and run it. And I didn't know what I was doing, Debbie. I was in so far over my head, it wasn't even funny. But naturally, I didn't want them to know that because this is my first job. So I'm trying to pretend like I'm professional and I know what I'm doing. But I found myself 3 nights a week because it was an intensive outpatient program, which runs usually 3 nights a week for 3 hours a session in this tiny
Wow.
hallway. It looked like a long closet, really, with teenagers who are addicted, who are looking at me like, "Who are you?" And I don't want to be here.
Oh, wow.
And it
That's
was
tough.
intimidating, to say the least. And like I said, I'm not even in recovery, so I didn't even have any cool stories to pull from. I don't have any. I didn't have any cool piercings. I don't have any cool tattoos. I didn't have any cool war stories. I mean, I was like drowning. So I decided that mostly I just didn't want to be known that I didn't know what I was doing. So
Hmm.
I decided that I needed to make sure these kids showed up to the program because if they didn't, then it would definitely be obvious that something was wrong.
Right.
So my entire mission was just to make the program, the place, a place that they would want to show up to. And we kind of made our motto like, we like you more than they like you, meaning myself and the peers, the other teenagers, we like you more than your using friends. Because what you're doing is you're competing with them. So
Hmm.
you gotta like bring something to the table. So I really just focused on connecting with these kids and understanding them. And so in the beginning, I really thought not being in recovery was I was embarrassed about it. Or, it was just weird because everyone else is and everyone expects you to be. So I felt like,
Sure. You didn't feel like you could relate or
right.
understand,
I
right?
felt like they judged me, like other professionals in the
Hmm.
field or people in recovery. Um, but now I really see it as the gift, like you're
Right.
talking about transitions, because um, it's kind of like when you have a disability, like I don't know if you can't see, like your hearing gets better. I feel like it was that way for me because I didn't have any backstory. I I couldn't project that onto them. So I was listening and watching with completely fresh eyes. And I think when you're in recovery, one of the things that happens is you assume you know everything they're thinking and doing because you did it all, and you project your story and you don't really listen good. And I had to listen good because I didn't have any
Mm,
story that to connect to. I didn't have any
sure.
credibility. And let me promise you, a degree does not get you anything. It gets you the opposite of that. So because I didn't have that, it just forced me to use some other techniques. And that's honestly where I learned the most important lessons and what I teach families now. Because I say, if I can get people to want to get sober who are addicted, are in denial, and who definitely don't want to be sitting in the room with me, then you can too. There's some strategies, and that's what the invisible intervention is. So, over all these years, 20 plus years, I've gotten really, really good at engaging people, especially people in denial, people that are reluctant, and bringing them from that state to the point of deciding they want to change. And so, people tell families all the time, like, there's nothing you can do. You just have to wait and hopefully they figure it out and decide they want it. But that's not true. And so, I spend a lot of my time teaching families how to do that.
So how do you help a family when, like, how, like, so they can understand what's helping versus actually enabling?
That's a really good question, and I talk about that a lot. I have like a formula for that.
Okay.
When you help someone, you feel good about it. You know, when you do something nice for someone, you feel good about it. It's just natural
Right.
human, right? You leave the interaction feeling good. When you enable someone, you leave feeling kind of resentful about it because it's some kind of help that you're giving them that you don't really want to do, or you feel like you have to do, or you feel like this bad thing is going to happen. And so you leave feeling not great about it. So if you want to know if you're helping or enabling, check in with yourself and say, how do I feel about doing this? You know, like if the coworker needs to call out because they're sick and you do it once, you feel good about it because you're helping them. If they do it 3 times a week and it's always something, you start to feel different about it.
You
And
feel
so
like you're being
that's how you feel.
used. You feel like
Right.
you're being used.
When you feel like you're being used or you have to or something like that, you don't feel good about doing those things. That's how you know you're on the wrong side of the helping.
So then how do you help families? You talk about relationship focused strategies. Tell us what that is.
The very first and most important thing, and if nothing else happens, if you just do this one little thing, it'll make all the difference. In every addicted person's journey, there's a villain. And that villain is usually the person closest to them. It's usually the spouse or the parent, might be the boss or something that their brother did to them. I don't know, like, but it's
Mhm.
usually the parent or the spouse, honestly. And so the reason that happens is because as someone becomes addicted, they start not being themselves. They start to make bad choices. And naturally, the person closest to you, they see it first before everyone else sees it. And so they start trying to be like, hey, what's going on? And then, that person saying nothing. And then you get into investigator mode because you're like, I know something's going on. And you start trying to prove it. And you start trying to shove evidence down their throat. And so it's like this chasing game. And then that goes on so long that you become the villain in their story. And this is really important because as long as you're being the villain, they're not going to see this problem. And the reason is because you're giving them a big old distraction. Because in their mind, you're being crazy, controlling, critical, like obsessive in their business, bad boundaries. That's how they see you. And the reason I know this, because I've been dealing with addicts and alcoholics for 20 years, and it's the only thing they talk to me about. And
Mm.
until the family stops doing that, it's the only thing they will talk to me about. They cannot see their own problem. They see their family member as their problem.
Oh, okay. They don't see their own problem. They just see their mother or father that keeps nagging them and, you know, coming down on them or,
Making their life hard, making them feel
Mhm.
bad about themselves, getting in their way of everything. And the family member, they're like, are you kidding me? I'm footing the bill. I'm doing all this. I'm keeping you afloat. I'm like, and
Yeah.
so And because of that, and it kind of relates to your enabling versus helping question, they feel resentful and they feel angry and they feel confused and they feel lied to. And so because they feel all these things, they interact in that relationship in a not great way. They do become controlling and critical and bad boundaries and all the things they
Ah,
do
well, how do you help the
naturally.
parent or the spouse set healthy boundaries without pushing their loved one further away?
The first thing people got to do is understand what a boundary is. Most people really don't understand that. And what they're calling a boundary is really a rule that they're setting for someone else.
True.
The way I like to say it is you can build a fence around your own backyard, but your neighbor's going to get real mad if you try to build it around their backyard. And that's really what family members try to do. And it's one of those things that gets them in the villain role. And so yes, you do need to set boundaries, but you don't need as many as you think. And the boundaries you set are really for you, as in, like, if you know your loved one is always drunk after 5 o'clock and they always call and then they're just belligerent or whatever, you just don't answer the phone. That's the boundary. You say, I'm not going to answer the phone when they call after 5. That is the boundary. Not, I'm going to tell them not to call after 5. Not, I'm going to try to get them to realize that they're drunk or that they're saying the same thing. You just don't, that's the boundary. It's a fence you're putting for yourself.
Yeah, boundaries are protective
Yeah,
mechanisms for us. And I know
right.
sometimes we can look at boundaries like, oh, we're being mean or unkind, but no, we have to do them for reasons, especially if you're in a relationship, where it can be abusive. And this is,
Mhm.
like the addiction, what we're talking about here. And so, do you give family members ideas of boundaries? Because I can just see people being overwhelmed. Like, where do I start, Amber? Like, how do you begin to help? Do you start with the teenager and then go into the family, or
It works better to start with the family.
okay,
Honestly, the chances that someone will get long-term recovery are, in my experience, more related to whether or not the family gets it than whether or not the person gets it. Because if the family gets it, they can play their cards right and the person will eventually get it. If the family doesn't get it, they inadvertently suck the person back into old roles over and over and over. They give the person excuses because they play the villain or they help the person because they're enabling and that kind of thing. So
it's like a cycle?
it's a vicious cycle. And so we we I like to start with the family. I can't start with the addict, but it actually works better because even if someone calls me up and they say, "Hey, I have a terrible problem, I want help," and they're like insightful and they really want to change, there's going to be days that they don't feel so strong. There's going to be days where they change their mind, and that's natural and normal. But if their family understands and gets it, their family helps to hold them accountable sometimes, but also be their cheerleader. They help in a way that kind of helps them stay solid through those times. If the family's not there, it doesn't work. And what's crazy about that is most families feel like the right thing to do is to kick them out or not talk to them anymore. And the family's usually the only gate holding it back. So when that goes, it all goes.
So that whole concept of not enabling them by maybe not allowing them to live in your home so you're not subjected to that, you find that is not, that's more harmful?
Um, I find that you shouldn't make that choice because you think that's what they need. It, I don't disagree that sometimes you need them to be out of your house. That is absolutely 1,000,000% true. But not because it's what they need. It's because it's what you need. If they're abusive, if they're stealing from you, if they're making you absolutely crazy, if they're bringing like unsafe people in and out of your house at crazy hours, then you just can't have it in your house. That's what I mean by boundary. But if you're thinking, I'm going to kick them out and then they're going to learn their lesson and then they're going to see that they got to get their life together, you're wrong. Because what ends up happening is they feel sorry for themselves. They resent you. They say, I can't believe you kicked your own kid out. I'm your husband and you said sickness and health. They just build a resentment. They feel sorry for themselves and they use that as a reason to keep on using. And
Mm,
if it goes real far and they get like they run out of couches to be on and they get homeless, now you really got a problem because guess what happens? They get used to it. And then, there's nothing to leverage them back. Like people get comfortable when they lose it all. And then it's really hard to bring people back when it gets that far. Not that it can't be done, but it's much
right,
harder.
right.
Yeah.
So like it's better than to just create the boundary and basically because you love this person, we can't have this happening anymore. Like it's like maybe in the presentation of it is what I think I'm hearing you say versus I'm sending you out of this house or
I'm glad you asked that because sometimes people hear me talk about this and hear other people talk about it, and they learn to say the right words, but it's not about saying the right words. It's about why you're doing it. If you are truly doing it for you, do it. If you, I don't, if you're really in the back of your mind thinking that it's going to make them better or they're going to learn a lesson or they're going to straighten it up or whatever, you're wrong. Do not do it for that reason. And sometimes people say they're doing it for the right reason when really they're doing it for punishment or control or something like that. And it doesn't work. And
so
the addict will call your bluff.
they'll call your bluff. How do they do that?
Like spouses threaten to leave all the time. And I'm not saying spouses shouldn't leave. I mean, I know a lot of them that need to get the heck out of there. But I don't think you should threaten to leave when you don't really mean it and you're not really ready to leave. Because let me tell you a secret. Your addicted spouse has a secret fantasy that they won't have to deal with you anymore. They have a secret fantasy about being single because then they could drink and use and do whatever they want to do all the time. And you are the thing standing in the way of that. So it's kind of like when someone wants to be out of a relationship, but they're like making you break up with them. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah,
And so
backfires.
you think you're going to say, I'm going to leave and well, you're going to lose this marriage if you don't. And they may say nice things, but secretly they're like, okay, fine, good, because they secretly been pushing you away like that.
Then they won't be accountable anymore.
Right. Then the gate is wide open, right? Now I don't even have to sneak drink. I can just drink as I want to.
Oh gosh, this is
Yeah.
this is a really interesting conversation. I'm looking at it's like a whole different way to look at this.
Right.
It's
It's
a
a
whole,
complete 180.
yeah, completely. So I was watching your YouTube channel and you talk about how does living, like living with addiction, how it can change you and the silent trauma of living with someone who may be like an alcoholic per se. What would
Mhm.
you like to speak into that?
You can't live with addiction and not be impacted. It's just not possible. You can't really even just be in the room with it very long without being impacted. I say it's like a communicable disease. Like it is like it spreads. Even if you're not
Yeah.
using it gets on you because this person that you love and care about, it's like you're losing them every single day. Like you're scared of what's the outcome is going to be. They're messing up your life. They're not holding up their end of the responsibilities. It's like family systems are like in a clock when you see all those little cogs connected to all the other cogs. When one of those cogs gets off, it messes the whole system up and everybody reacts to it different, but everything goes haywire. And you start coming from a place of either fear or guilt or resentment or some kind of negative emotion, you start coming at life from that emotion and especially coming at that person from that emotion. And eventually, and they make you feel crazier and crazier because you may not know exactly what's happening, but something's happening that's not right. But the other person is telling you that it's not happening and that you're crazy and that you're just making a big deal about it, or you're like thought you saw that, but it didn't really happen. They're telling you all this thing. And then so not only are you coming from a place of fear and confusion and resentment, but you're also like determined to prove that you're right. And so you get dug in. And so you get you end up with somewhere between like post-traumatic stress disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder because you're obsessively checking and trying to like figure out what's really going on, trying to control if they have money, trying to control. They said they were only going to drink 3 beers, and so now you're trying to control that. And just like if you were like checking the stove 1,000 times a day, it completely consumes your life, and then you're depressed. I mean, you don't even recognize yourself anymore.
You must get so overwhelmed because you love this person, you want to help them, but you're hurting yourself in the process of helping them because you don't realize how your own personality is changing as you're trying to live in this situation that just seems so hopeless.
And at some point you do realize it, but you're so emotionally dysregulated that even when you realize it, you don't feel like you can control it. So
Hmm.
when it's your partner, your spouse, you get something that's sort of like betrayal trauma is what I call it, because you're being lied to. It's a trust issue. When it's your child, it's more like regular trauma because you're literally you live in fear. When that phone rings, you feel sick. You know you're going to get that phone call one day that something terrible's happened to your kid, that your kid did something terrible to someone else, that your kid's going to prison forever. You live in fear. I mean, just gut-wrenching fear all the time until you wreck your nervous system and you get sort of like a complex trauma kind of thing going on.
So, how do you help families that are coming to you? Maybe some of them are already feeling this way. How do you help them untangle that mess? And how do you give them hope?
Well, it feels so out of control because nothing seems to work in the family's mind. Everything they've tried, they've begged, they've pleaded, they've been nice, they've been mean, they've ultimatum, they've done all the things, they've did tough love, and nothing seems to work. And so, and everyone in their life is telling them that there's nothing they can do. They're the other doctors they're consulting, the counselors, they're Al-Anon sponsor, everyone's saying there's nothing you can do. And it makes them feel completely powerless. But
Sure.
it's not it's not completely true. You can't control someone else, but you have a lot of influence, way more than you think. And so once we help families understand what's going on, and that yes, you are in this weird alternate universe, but here are the rules of that universe. And actually it's very predictable. They're just different rules than the ones you're used to, because this thing that's happening to your loved one is impacting the motivational center of their brain. So regular ways you interact with people that motivate people in certain ways just don't work anymore. And you keep trying all the regular ways, and they're like, no, you got to try these ways, which are very sort of like counter your instincts. But after you wrap your head around it, you're like, okay, it makes you feel a little bit more like, I get it. Like, not I'm in control of the situation, but like I have my hands on it and I have a plan and I have a strategy. And instead of like putting out every fire that's coming at you today, you get what I call ahead of it. Like we're gonna figure out what they're gonna do tomorrow and the next day and next week. And that's where we're gonna be standing right there waiting for our moment. And
Oh,
and it makes you feel a little more settled. Of course, you don't feel completely settled, but you're like, okay, like you feel better knowing you have a strategy and plan and you know what's going on. And that if you position yourself right, you have actually some really positive influence in the right direction.
I like how you use the word influence over control because
Hmm.
influence is more empowering. And I can hear you as you're sharing, you're literally giving them keys to
Hmm.
understand this lifestyle and how you have to approach it so differently. So one of the things that you mentioned was, and we do this. We will want to motivate our children, motivate our loved ones to do a certain thing. But you said it's different in the world of the addict. So what would that be? What is the opposite? How do you motivate them? Or
The way I
is
like to think about it is the first I want you to just understand what's not going to work, and I want you to know why it's not going to work.
yeah, okay.
People think if someone suffers enough, if enough bad things, if enough consequences happen, it's going to make them have a wake up call. And there's a teeny bit of truth in that. The truth is, yes, they do have to get uncomfortable before they're going to change. That's true. But the very definition of addiction is continues to do it despite consequences. People lose everything and still do it. They lose their children, their homes, their marriages, their freedom, everything, and they still do it. So that isn't quite the answer because they're really under anesthesia. So it's like when you go to the dentist and they put you, like they numb you up and give you gas or whatever, and they're drilling in your face, but you're like, whatever. They're under anesthesia. So you can't, they can't feel that the way you feel that. So you're trying to come at it from that perspective because, normally if we get uncomfortable, we move. Normally if someone comes at our face with a drill, we move. But if we're under
Right.
anesthesia, we might not. So
Oh, that's great.
what you
Oh
have to
my
do is you
gosh.
have to find their motivators. And even when it seems like this person loves what they're doing and they'll tell you they're never going to stop, and some people take it on as their identity, they're proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even in those cases, there's something they don't like about it, and there's something they want to change. And so I train people to find what that is in their loved one instead of trying to push it in externally because you're telling them or because you're trying to wait for these bad things to happen. You reach inside of them or you look inside of them and you find, what do they care about? What is it they don't like about this thing? And it's like a little seed that you can sort of nurture and pull forward, like pulling a thread on a sweater, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You reach in and find what's already in there, and there's something in there. I mean, I've worked with every age, every kind of person, and there's something they don't like about it. Maybe they don't like to drink because it's making them gain weight. Maybe they don't like it because it makes them feel bad. You have to find their thing.
I was just going to ask you if you had some examples. So then if you know that's their thing, they don't like that they're gaining weight. So is
Mhm.
that the thing you talk about with them very
That if
gently?
that's the first seed you find, you go in addiction, we say take any open door. And it might feel silly to you because you might be thinking, that's what you care about, and everything else is like on fire. What? But sometimes it's really not usually all they care about, but it might be the thing they're willing to admit. What's really going on is they really do, they may not want to give up their substance, but they really do want to stop doing what they're doing. They want to stop these addictive behaviors. But they are very reluctant to telling you that or letting on because they have a lot of ambivalence about it and they're not 100% sure. And if I tell you it, number one, I'm going to get a bunch of I told you so. So I don't want to give you that satisfaction of telling you. And secondly, I'm not really sure if I really want to give it up. And if I admit I'm an addict or alcoholic, then everyone knows what that means. And so it's really in there. So you find the little pieces that they'll show you. And if you interact with them in the right ways, they'll show you more and more and more of those seeds, the bigger and bigger and bigger ones.
So,
And now you're using their motivation to motivate them.
gosh, I just love this. This is so totally different than anything I've ever heard. It really is a unique approach to it because they think differently. And
Yeah, they think
we
differently.
have to, and I love your analogy there with the being like the dentist. Yeah, we just sit there and let them drill because we can't feel anything.
And we think if
So
we drill harder on them, they're gonna
they're
like,
going to change, but
yeah.
and it's almost like they want to hold on to it because it's probably the one thing they can control from you. Not that
And
they control it themselves, but it can they're
yeah,
controlling you.
they do have these little moments where they feel the pain or uncomfortableness of it. I call them moments of clarity, and they are important moments. But it's enough to get them to think about it, but it's not enough to get them to stay because they can always go get their anesthesia, right? It's always right
Hmm.
there. So yeah, I woke up, I felt it, and let me just get my numbing back in and put some more medicine on it. So
Mm.
it's just easy to go back in there. But let me give you an example of what I mean when I say find their motivation. Like these, I started by working with teenagers. Oh my gosh, that's the hardest. These days I work a lot with like what I call like high functioning alcoholics and addicts. Like they're pretty high achieving and they're like in denial because in parts of their life they're very successful. Like I see a lot of businessmen who drink too much, doctors, lawyers, like professionals, really smart. really talented, really ambitious people. It's really hard to get through to them. They're like the CEO. So what are you talking to me, telling me I got a problem? I run this company, I run this house. That's sort of the way
Right. Yeah.
I get a lot of them. So I was talking to a person like this recently who's very successful, has a very important job in a very prestigious place. And he's seeing me because his wife's making him see me because she thinks he's got an alcohol problem. He definitely has an alcohol problem, like big time. But in his mind, it's like I go to work every day. I've literally missed 3 days of work in the last 20 years. How can you say, not me, but how can she say that I've got a problem? Like I make a lot of money. I'm taking care of her. She don't even work. This is what he's thinking.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's hard to argue with. So that's not gonna be anything. So I'm listening. And because he's doesn't like the fact that he's seeing me and he feels embarrassed, he kind of has a need to like tell me that he's great, which is fine. I'm just listening. And he's
Mm-hmm.
telling me about like how he deals with the people that work for him and how he deals with his clients and how everyone loves him. And he's telling me all these stories. So I'm just taking that in. So eventually it comes obvious to me that it's very important to him that people see him as a good guy and that he treats people well. The problem is when he drinks, he does not treat his wife very well. Okay. That's the issue. And I'm like, so I said, why does your wife not like it when you drink? Well, she says I'm mean or whatever. And so I said, I use what he tells me and I say, clearly you care about how you interact with people. You're very generous with your money. You are very generous with your time and your praise and your words. This drinking, like it makes you like that's not you at all. Like that's like the opposite of who you are. And you can watch the light bulb go off and they're like, yeah, you're right. That's not me. I don't want to. I'm like, it's very important to you to treat people in this certain way. And so that's what I mean when I say you find their thing and you find that seed and you pull it forward and you water it, it grows into more and more and more.
It's like it becomes the mirror. All of a sudden they could see.
Hmm.
They could see in that mirror and say, it's like an aha moment. Oh, that's powerful.
But it's important the mirror you pick because families are trying to get you to see it and they're trying to get you to, they're showing you the ugly. And people don't want to look at the ugly. They're trying to get you to see that you're a bad husband.
Hmm.
You're messing your kids up. Like you're about to lose this job. People don't want to look at that. And that's the way families are trying to like, they're really ramping it up, trying to make you see that. And the more you do that, the more they're going to run from it. I try to look for how does someone want to see themselves and maybe who they really are inside and underneath that, what their real values are. And I'm trying to pull those forward and remind them of those things. So I'm not trying to show them the ugly necessarily, I'm trying to show them the good.
Well, that'll take you a long way. That is so beautiful. So, as you're sharing that, I'm thinking, do some of the people not like themselves at all, and that's why the addiction comes in to maybe cover their own low self-esteem or rejection or lack of value and worth?
Sometimes that's what gets the addiction started. But regardless of whether it was there in the beginning, it will be there in the end because you will become a person that you don't like, even if you weren't before. Because that's what addiction does to you. It turns you into somebody who's not you, just like this important person I was just telling you about. Like,
Right.
and so whether it was there or not, I don't know in the beginning, but it's definitely there by the time they get to me. They don't like who they are, and that shame is very uncomfortable and very painful. And people deal with that in different ways. Denial, they use the substance, they blame everybody and everything else. There's a lot of ways they deflect that shame out. So hitting on that shame isn't a great way to get someone to do different.
As you share that, that just makes so much sense because you will naturally rise up in defense of yourself against the
Even when you know you're
person.
in the wrong, like, and it's a
Yeah.
natural human reaction. When you've been called out, even when you know you're in the wrong, you are like, well, that's just what we do. That's normal. Yeah.
Do you have a story of a teenager? I would love to hear one of those that got their breakthrough.
Yeah, I had this one kid. I'm telling you, if you could have seen this kid walking around, it's just like stereotype. I mean, he's just like rolling his eyes, like he's not even looking at me. He's like sauntering in 20 minutes late. He's plopping down on the couch. He's looking at me like, I dare you. Like
Oh gosh.
it takes me every time it comes in, it takes me till almost the end of the hour to get anything to happen. I'm like, dude, I gotta get this kid's sessions longer because it takes like 40 minutes of like dragging him into anything. But this kid was like um smoking weed all the time, doing Xanaxes every time I could get a hold of him, drinking up I mean, he was just doing all the things. And he was like known as the party kid. In fact, he was known as the drug dealer kid. He was the one that could hook you up. And as I listen to this kid, he's telling me about all this. And he's also telling me about how, he deals drugs. He's also telling me about how he sells tennis shoes and how when he was in elementary school, he would like sell candy. And I said, you are an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like you are going to make some money. Look how your brain works naturally. Oh my gosh. Like you're a businessman. Holy moly. And then I'm like, this is what you need to use your superpower for. And so I will sometimes sit in and I'll say, well, let's calculate your ROI on this weed. Okay. Is it really making you what you think? You're driving it to these people. Are you calculating that in? Like, you're going to get some of it stole from you. Are you calculating that in? Are you calculating in what you're going to have to pay lawyer fees and stuff? Because you got that like little possession charge. Is this really the best business deal, or is there a way to make money in a better way? Like better money. I just use what they care about, like I said, and it works. And people feel
Oh,
seen.
they feel seen. And then they can actually, they want to answer that question because
Yeah.
that's truly who they are.
Yeah.
Ah,
And
I love it.
when people feel like you see them and you get them, you have credibility with them. So in the invisible intervention, I teach you build credit, just like you build your credit score if you want to buy a house. I'm like, if you want to influence someone to do something, you got to build your credit score up. Because if you don't got good credit, you're like, it's dumb. And it's not good credit because, you love them. They know you love them. And in fact, it's kind of annoying. It's a little bit of a burden, honestly. So that's not going to do it. Just like you might know your grandma loves you, but you're probably not going to take her advice if you don't think she understands your situation. The
True.
key to getting someone to take your advice or listen to your opinion or care what you think is you got to make them feel like this person really gets me. They see who I am. They get what my problems are, what my roadblocks are, what my frustrations are. So you spend a lot of time building your credit score up. Then eventually they'll get themselves in a bind because that's what people with addictions do. And
Mhm.
they'll come to you and they want to know what to do. And this is your moment of cashing your credit. You say, you might want to think about doing this. And then you just lay it out. They're like, oh my God, you're right. And they're like, oh, you helped me so much.
They're ready to
And
receive.
they're ready to receive the answer. Right.
And you've built trust. So that's what it's all about too with the families.
Hmm.
You as their, the counselor, the one who has all the tools, you're also building that bridge of trust.
Right. And this is what I've been doing for years. And like I said, that I just teach this to families now. And I'm like, first of all, they still like you a little bit. They come into my office like actively deciding they don't like me. They come into my office looking for everything about me that's ridiculous and why they shouldn't listen to me. They are actively looking for why not to listen to me because they don't want to be there. And I'm only with them like an hour a week. You're with them a lot. Yeah, and you can like you hold the money, you hold the consequences. You have all this influence. Like the families have so much more influence than I have. They just they just don't know how to play their cards, and so I just teach them how to play their cards.
You're equipping them to bring healing back to their loved ones.
Hmm.
Be aware. Oh, I love it. It's so beautiful. So let's talk about the cultural part of addiction, where sometimes it's maybe people don't want to talk about it. People try to keep it hidden. Is there a way that we can change the conversation about addiction on a cultural level?
Like from like stigma, you mean?
Yeah, like people don't know how to talk about it or maybe are ashamed to talk about it. How can we help people feel empowered to talk about it?
You know what's funny, Debbie, is people always worry about that. They say people don't come forward about the stigma of addiction, but that's not it, Debbie. People
What
don't
is
come
it?
forward because they don't know that they want to stop. And so they don't want to admit it because
Oh,
they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to stop. It's not because of the stigma. In fact, most of the people I see, they're so much more worried about what people are going to think when they quit because all of their friends and drinking buddies and everything, they're afraid to be outcasted when they stop.
I could
People
see
worry
that.
about that so much. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. They worry about like not that someone's going to think I'm an alcoholic, but someone's going to think I'm lame. I'm boring now. Like I'm a straight edger. They
Right. I'm not
really,
fun
no
anymore.
one's not, I'm not funny anymore. No one's going to like me anymore. That's what they worry about more. They worry about that stigma. And honestly, it kind of is a stigma
I could see
to
that
be a
because,
non-drinker, yeah, to not smoke weed. These days it's like, well, who are you? That's
oh,
what
it's
people
so
worry
true.
about.
And what then how about the families that are not the addicts? Is it hard for them to talk about, oh, I have a family member that's I'm struggling with addiction? Like, is it hard for people just in society to be able to even share that?
Sometimes families worry more about stigma, I think, than the person.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I get grief on my YouTube channel because I use the words addict and alcoholic. That's just not PC anymore. I have my reasons, like I have specific reasons why I use the words, but families are like, you shouldn't say that. Like, that's stigmatizing. And I'm like, first of all, there's reasons I say it. But you know who, never people who have addictions ever say that to me. People who have addictions introduce themselves as addicts and alcoholics. It's the family members who worry about that. And some worry about it more than others. And a lot of that just depends on your personality. Sometimes you feel ashamed, like if this is your kid, maybe you feel embarrassed or shamed, or you feel guilty, or you think it's like your fault or something, and you might hide it. Other other people are screaming it from the rooftops to everyone who listen because they're desperately trying to get somebody to intervene. They're telling everybody at church and they're calling the pastor in and they're calling up your friends, tell your friends that you have a problem. And that's the worst thing to do. If anybody's listening right now is doing that, please stop doing that. If you want to find a way to get in the villain role and never get out, that's the way, because that's seen as sort of like disloyal. That people have a harder time forgiving that as anything.
If you are the one out there in the community saying, my son's an addict, like,
Telling the other people in their life that they have a problem, they that I mean, there's a lot of things that don't go over well, but that really, really doesn't go over well. I
mm,
mean, think about if you had a problem in your marriage that was personal and maybe embarrassing, and your spouse was going to tell everyone around you to try to get them to come talk to you about it.
ooh,
Could you imagine?
that would be tough. Yeah,
That would not go well. That would not go well at all.
you feel
Yeah,
totally undressed, betrayed, like just naked before everybody because your secret is now out in the public.
right. And as a family member, you need your own support. So you do need somebody or a couple people to talk to. So it's not that I'm telling you not to talk about it, but I am telling you, don't try to go around to all your addicted loved ones people because you think you're going to tell them that and that they're going to help you and they're going to intervene and they're going to talk sensitive to this person because they're not listening to you. But it won't work that way because what happens is the addicted person's been talking about you and how mean and critical and controlling you are for a long time now. And so when you come and tell those people that, it almost more verifies this story that they have in their head. You don't know it, but you're the villain in their head too.
Oh
When you come
gosh.
trying to say all these things about this person, it almost like proves them right. And then they like take up for this person more and they go against you and they work against you even more. So it doesn't work anyway. So don't do it.
Gosh, what insight you have. I'm just, watching this whole cycle go. Oh, this, you've offered so much wisdom and knowledge in this area. I hope for everyone who's listening that maybe you're seeing something totally different, a whole different approach to helping your loved one that is really struggling. And so, in closing, Amber, is there something that you would like to share with the audience? Something maybe we didn't cover yet? Some wisdom, some advice, or how they can work this out.
Mostly, I just want people to know that they're not powerless, whether you're the one that's struggling or you're the one with a family member, and don't let anyone tell you that. If you're still alive, you're still in the game, and people get better from this thing every day by the millions. People get better from this thing. It's just there's so much. People say these statistics: 1 in 10 people are going to stay sober when they leave treatment. This is ridiculous because a lot of those statistics, it's like a lot of it's done by treatment centers and because they're trying to find their efficacy or whatever. And first of all, you got to be like, well, how do you get your numbers? Do you getting a select people who answered the phone and took the survey, and are they being honest? So
Mhm.
there's that. Plus, I think the numbers are skewed because it's like they say 1 in 10 people is going to stay sober. Well, it takes most people several tries. So in the end, a lot more than 1 in 10 people get sober. They're not going to get it on the first try though. So if you're measuring whether this person that came in to see you like stopped and never used again, and this is their first or second trial, they're probably not gonna not. And so now your numbers are all skewed. It's a
Okay.
process, it's a learning process of change. And so are they gonna get it the first time? Probably not. I'd say less than 1 in 10 people get it the first time. But it takes people, it's a learning, like I said. So just don't let those numbers scare you. Don't think that you're powerless. You just got to understand what you're dealing with and get ahead of it.
I love the keys and the strategies that you're giving to families. And so, is the best way to connect with you? Would it be your website, which I'll have all of Amber's contact information in my show notes? But can you tell us what would be the best way?
I think the best way is to find us on YouTube because there's literally more than 1,000 videos there. Whichever direction you're coming at this thing from, there's a playlist for you. You know, if you're the businessman alcoholic, if you're the wife, if you're the parent, whatever you are, if you're the teenager, there's something on there to help you, and it is totally free and accessible. So the channel is called Put the Shovel Down, and I know that's a weird name, but it stands for you hit your bottom when you put the shovel down. You don't have to keep digging. You don't have to lose everything. You don't have to burn every bridge. You can decide you're done whenever you're done. Whenever you decide to put it down, you're done. Our goal is to help people get better before they hit bottom, before they lose everything.
Oh, well, I've seen some of your work on your YouTube channel, and it's amazing. It's great. It's wonderful. So I really do highly recommend that everyone who's listening to check out your YouTube channel. You will learn a lot from everything that you're sharing. You do share your wisdom, your knowledge, and your keys and your strategies, and coming from a place of just understanding, which I think this is what you need more of in this type of situation, to be understood and to help others understand.
Absolutely. Thank you for helping me share my message. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're so welcome, and Amber. It's powerful. It's powerful. I just can't wait to tell more people about you because I think this is a unique approach, what you've created, and I can see why it works. And always when we get to the root of anything, we're able to bring health and healing. But when
Mhm.
we just stay on the surface or stay with the symptoms, we never get a full recovery. So I can just tell by the work that you're doing, you're getting to the root, you're getting to the heart and the soul of the person and who they are and who they're really created to be. And you're reminding them of that. And the addiction is just getting in the way.
Mhm. You're spot on. You got it. You nailed it. That's right.
Oh, well, thank you. And hey, Transition Tribe, thank you so much for being here with me this week. And Amber, again, thank you for sharing such practical wisdom and hope with us today. And I love the way that you're helping families with your strategies, and you literally are changing lives. And so this is incredible. And for everyone who's listening, just like Amber said, don't lose hope. There's always a path in front of you to take. There's resources for you to find. You have a story that's still being written, a story within you that we all want to hear of who you really are, the greatness within you. And we want to know more about you. So we want you to get well. As long as you're alive, you have a purpose on this earth.
Mhm.
And so, again, thank you for coming each and every week. And until I meet you all again, keep moving forward with courage and hope.